All right, this is the follow up, and we are following up today on a live video I did on George's Bass Chat not too long ago, which featured my good friend Ted Gould, the bass player Ted Gould, and the video was entitled Uptown Mardi Gras Morning. My guest today on the follow up is none other but the great Eddie Christmas himself, drummer from New Orleans, in New Orleans. Eddie, thank you so much for making yourself available and welcome
Man,
to the
thanks for
follow up.
having me, man.
Oh, my
Thanks for
pleasure.
having me, man.
No, you have no idea how thrilled I am talking with you. This is really, really awesome for me.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, for those watching, for those listening, let me just give you a little bit of background. I first got introduced to Eddie Christmas's playing via Ted Gould, who told me, "Listen, you got to check out this drummer." And as a consequence of that, I went and got a bunch of recordings with John Cleary, who himself is a piano player and singer in New Orleans, and was
Yeah.
blown away by the drumming of Eddie Christmas. It's the best of both worlds, if I can say so. I'm certainly not a specialist in the sound of that city, but I couldn't think of anyone better to talk to about this. Um, Eddie Christmas, born and raised in New Orleans, a drummer himself, and someone who has studied the music of New Orleans um, to great length. So, Eddie, let me open it up to you. Um, if I were to ask you the sound of New Orleans, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
The sound of New Orleans, the first thing comes to mind would probably be everything percussion, drums, Afrobeat, Cuban. It's like having a bowl of gumbo, if that makes
Mm,
a lot of sense. If you ever come to New Orleans and you have some gumbo,
right,
it's a lot of different flavors and seasoning and meats and stuff in it.
right,
That's kind of like describing the whole vibe of the whole flavor of New Orleans when it comes to drumming, man.
right.
Because our drumming, the style is linked to Cuba and Africa, and it's the shit, man. I mean, I love. I tell people all the time, man. No matter what gig I'm on, what style of music, if I'm asked to take a solo, I always take it back home.
Right.
Uh, uh, you know, and a lot of people have heard of the New Orleans drum, but a lot of people haven't.
Right,
But they
right,
can relate in so many ways because there's so much that's linked and attached to it.
right, right. Most definitely. There's also just to let you know, I am obviously a fan of New Orleans, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
had the great honor to work in New Orleans on a movie a couple years ago, right? Which
Wow.
meant that I was there in the city for a whole week, going
Wow.
out at night and working on the movie during the day, right? Um, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously I went out and I saw some brass bands and I went out to Tipitinas and I saw Dumpster Funk and all of these bands. The one thing that I wanted to ask you, which perhaps would be interesting from your point of view, with the
Uh-huh.
brass bands, you have two drummers, right, who absolutely sound like one, right?
Wow.
With second line drumming, you also have the tradition of marching bands and all of that.
Yeah.
As a drummer, how do you? I mean, how do you incorporate all of that into your drum
That's a
style?
great question, man. So, marching band is a big deal here in New Orleans.
Right,
Really big deal. We people come, oh, I got to go to Mardi Gras, but no, honestly, the people here, they don't just go just for the parade and the floats and the beads. A
right,
lot of times, it's really for the marching bands. Marching, like I said, is a big deal. So for me, what I did was I marched in high school. I marched in middle school. I've been marching since elementary. I marched from the time I started playing and
right.
was able to get on a drum. I tried to incorporate as much as I can drum corp to the drum kit,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
the rudiments, the approach, uh, uh, different ways of thinking, how I can process and also um, apply to what I'm playing.
right, right, right,
Like you say with the brass band, it's two drummers, and then you have you have gigs like Third Dozen Brass Band, Terrence Higgins, who played for years. Now is Julian Addison, who've been incorporated that as one drummer. You know, so it kind of is a challenge, but not a big challenge. You know what I mean? Yeah, but I try to, as much as I can in my playing, incorporate drum corp into the drum kit. Right. I hear things normally that most drummers don't hear, or I would hear it in a different sense from what most drummers would hear, you know? Right. Yeah, marching band is a big, big thing here in the city, man. Big old thing in the city. Yeah. For most drummers that play, they probably march in the marching band. Probably play in the marching, you know, the snatch balls, ditto type rudiments, you know, which is cool, man. And it's so many guys. Right. I mean, you can literally go like walk up Frenchman, walk up Royal Street. I mean, it's so many. It's so many. It's so many drummers, man. So many drummers.
Right. The one thing that I also I wanted to point out, aside from the marching band and aside from you know the drum rudiments and all of that, is also like a general idea, and you touched on it at the beginning of this, that in New Orleans apparently people go out to specifically hear bands. Like that's a life. You know, talk about that.
That's a 24/7. You know, I stayed in New York for 15, 16 years, bro. And there's no place like here. Right. I love New York. I was introduced to New York when I was 10th grade in high school, and I was blown away. Right. I didn't get a chance to really hang out much, but I was playing gigs. My godfather, Craig Washington, the guy who taught me how to play the kit, would send me on gigs, get my feet wet. You know what I mean? Right. And I was blown away. But there's no city like here. When you get off a gig in New Orleans, I don't care you going north, south, east, or west. Whatever time you get off, and it seems the later you get off, the more gigs are still being played. Yeah, you can stop at two to three spots on your way home. Yeah. That's no lie, bro. And, you know, music is really 24. Music and food is really 24/7. People do come here and go listen to bands. I have a buddy been coming down here for 20 years now. His name is Gary Bowen. He was here 2 weeks ago. And what I appreciate about it's not just him coming, but he also takes me to see stuff that I probably would never get a chance to go see. Right. I've learned about so many new bands and new musicians just from him saying, look, man, let's go check out such and such, or check this out. We went to a Big Frida. Big Frida is a bounce artist from there. Right. Now, I love it, man. You know, from the drums and percussion perspective, it's killing, you know. Yeah. But it's kind of like going to a block party in the city. We have DJs where a DJ would come out on ones and twos, and the girls would be dancing. That's what the guys are, they really want to see, you know. But I went to her show, and I was blown away because of the presentation. Right. You know, she had dancers, and they were dancing, but they were doing like dance routines. They changed the outfits, you know, so the whole presentation was blown away, you know, and I was like, and the opening band too, I had never heard of the opening band, and I didn't know anybody in the opening band. So I was exposed to a new set of musicians, you know. But like you say, man, people come here to listen to music, and they could come from cities where there's music, you know. It's a different vibe here in New Orleans, man. Yeah, it really is.
That's very noticeable. The show that the movie that I was making was it was a film adaptation of a Broadway musical that I played, right? It was about Billie Holiday. It was called Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill.
Oh yeah.
We were filming at the club at the Cafe Brazil on French.
Nice,
right?
That's one of my first gigs, man. Not to cut you off. My first gig was with the special thing about the John Cleary gig was Cornell and Big D. I love playing with John, but it was a little deeper than that. Cornell and Big D were the musicians at my church, as a kid. Right. And so my first gigs were with a quartet band called the Friendly Travelers, which is the Cornell and Big D. Right. Cornell's mother and father and Big D uncle. And so that's the band that John Cleary seen them at Cafe Brazil.
At Cafe
Seen
Brazil.
them years ago, bro. Yeah,
Check
seen
that
them years
out.
ago. And I played my first gigs outside of the church with them, bro, like 7 years old,
Oh,
6 years old, playing with them at Cafe Brazil, man. But that goes to show you, man, like this is a crazy music city, bro.
It's
You
all
know,
it's all mixed up. No, man.
it's like a big old pot of gumbo, I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, that's coming up. That's coming up over and over again. There's
Yeah.
no doubt about it. What I meant to say was that when we played the show, because we played the show at the Cafe Brazil and they recorded it and
Wow.
all that. They had the audience was a mixture. There were a couple actors, right?
Mhm.
But then there was also like real audience. They bought tickets for it and all that, and those were
That's
all
awesome.
people from New Orleans, right?
That's awesome, man.
When I played something on that gig, I was playing upright.
Mhm.
When I played something, and that show was very specific. Like we tried to play really specific a certain type of jazz from a certain type of era and all of that, right?
Mhm.
When I played something over here in New York, you know, it was like, okay, well, this is nice, this sounds good, and all of that. In New Orleans, I played the same thing, and people would react to it, and that blew my mind.
Yeah,
Okay?
bro.
I would play a bass line, boom, 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 you know, something like that, right?
They appreciate it.
People would react to it like instantly. It was that was. I mean, thinking about it, gives me goosebumps right now. It was so deep, right? So
Appreciation here is crazy, man.
it is crazy, and there's an understanding. You know, there's an understanding of these lines, and you know, something like a bass line, something like a drum beat. You know, which kind of brings me to my next point, my next question that I wanted to raise with you, and that was the influence of Mardi Gras Indians, of Black Indians, on the sound of New Orleans. It's my understanding that there are several tribes, several groups, the
Yes.
Wild Chapatulas, you know, all of
Yes.
that.
There's a bunch of there's a lot of them, man. You got Bo Dollar Senior. I played and toured with. I was blessed, man. I was young, and this is kind of like right before he took sick, man. And I was blessed to get on that gig and play that gig, and it was all heavy hitters on that gig. You had Junior Amagishi, you had Benny Turner, which is Earl Keen's brother, bass player, and then you had DeVal Crawford, piano king in the city, and the late Marvin Wright, blues singer. And so I played that gig for about 3-4 years, man, before he took really, really sick. But you also have Big Monk Boudreaux. You have Big Chief Wine Park. It's so many because you have Indian tribes, Mardi Gras Indian tribes, Uptown, Downtown, West Bank. And the beautiful thing about it is on Mardi Gras Day, all of the tribes come out, you know, and to see those suits, man, they Mardi Gras Day, when Mardi Gras Day is supposedly over,
right?
Those Indian tribes are beating starting that night for the following Mardi Gras, the next Mardi Gras. They beat all year round, and those suits are beautiful, man.
Yeah.
All year round, they beat all year round, and then we have St. Joe's night when all of the tribes come out.
Wow.
All of the tribes come on. You have drummers. Sometimes you have a bass drum player, maybe a cowbell. Some of the most syncopated shit that you would ever hear, bro. Like some of these guys are not even considered percussionists.
Wow.
But they play the piss out of these rhythms, you know?
Oh yeah.
It's pretty hip, man. It's pretty hip, man. Mardi Gras Indian.
Let me ask.
Sorry.
Let me ask. No, it's just quick question. Let me ask you. Do the various tribes have their own rhythms?
No.
Okay.
They are very similar, but they would be played in a different form, but similar to each other because, you know, like the way I played second line is similar to the way Stan Moore would play it.
Okay.
And Stan is similar to the way Terrence Higgins would play it.
Right.
But we have our own little thing.
Right.
But it's very similar.
Right.
You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, I get it.
I love to hear some of those guys play, man. That's not, like I say, some of them, they're not even drummers. You know, but they play that's it, those rhythms, man. I did a gig recently with Big Chief Monk Boudreaux, which is him and his Indians. It was me. I had kick, snare, hat,
Mm-hmm.
and a crash ride cymbal, and his grandson on called big bass drum, and it was a Congo player, and we just played. They would do chants, and we played these rhythms.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you a couple videos,
Oh
man, just
yeah, please
to check
do.
some. You know, they have Indian practice on Sundays, and it would the whole bar or the whole house would be full. My chopper too is pork chop, man. But he old school, you know. The
Mm.
tribes, the new school is a little bit different, but the old school, man, I love because, you know, he would just come outside on a day like today. He would just come outside out the front door
Mm.
chanting,
Mm.
and before you know it, the neighborhood people coming out and people grabbing tambourines and cowbells,
Right.
and everybody's playing the rhythms to him chanting, man.
Right.
You know, and then sometimes they would get in the street and take around the block, you know,
Right.
and that's
Right.
like a normal, that's a regular day in New Orleans. You know, you come to
Mm.
New Orleans, well, I can't get that for Jazz Fest. I tell people all the time, there is something always going on here. There's 24/7 music and food. If you
Yeah.
can't make Jazz Fest or Mardi Gras, it's all right.
Right.
You come to a time that's probably the slowest time of the year in most cities, but not in New Orleans, man.
Right. 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 No, that's it.
Like not at all. There's always something. Just about every Sunday.
Say that again. Say the last part again.
I was saying like just about every Sunday,
Mm.
there's a second line here in the city.
Mm.
Brass bands in the street. They have social aid clubs,
Mm.
and my fiance family is heavy, and then the social aid clubs, they've been around for like hundreds of years, man. You know, each New Orleans is broken down into wards. We have Uptown, we got Downtown, we got the West Bank, the Metairie, but we're broken to wards. We have 6th Ward,
Right.
7th Ward. 6th Ward is kind of Tremere with Louis Armstrong,
Right.
Kermit Ruffins, Trombone Shorty,
Right.
and then you have Uptown 13 with like the Neville Brothers, you know, the
Yep.
Meters.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so every Sunday there's a second line, man. Parade in the streets, Associate Club. They come out these beautiful outfits on.
Mm.
You know, I mean, it's something to see. I'm gonna send you some videos, man,
Oh yeah,
so you
please
can
do.
really get an
No,
understanding and see, like, you know,
please do.
it's the shit, bro.
I'll be more than happy to share all of that because
Absolutely.
I was so blown away by and that was, you know, the when I was working on the movie on Lady Day, that was not the first time that I was in New Orleans. The first time was with modern R&B singer Amel LaRue. We played
Malibu, yeah.
we played the Essence Festival many years ago, right? And even back then, my trip, it was just a one-nighter, so I was in and out of the city really quickly, right? But I loved it. I loved it very, very much, and it stayed in my memory. Let me put it this way, right?
Yeah.
And then coming back and staying for a whole week and just playing and experiencing the city and experiencing the sounds and the music and all of that was incredible, right? It's one of those things where, and I, as you said, I come from a city. I come from New York City. I come from Brooklyn, and before that from Vienna, Austria. I come from cities that have a lot to do with music, you know.
Yeah.
So this is a whole nother level, right? Let me maybe just to close this out real quick. You know, let me ask you the whole cultural impact of going out, of listening to music. As you said, people are coming out. They're gonna start playing a tambourine, and I did see this to a certain degree on some of John Cleary's live videos, where you know you have 2 or 3 people on stage out of nowhere, picking up cowbells and tambourines and all of that. How far is the cultural impact of this music? How far is that something that's on people's minds? Like, are people just is it an active thing for them, or is it something that just happens?
Both.
Both.
It's yeah, because you have it's active because it's an everyday life here.
Right.
You know, some of the tribes, like I say, they beat and stuff every day. You know,
Yeah.
they would listen to the radio, or they would listen to like the artists, or what's hot on the radio or what artist is hot, whatever style of music. But you best to believe, majority of their day they got Mardi Gras Indian music on,
Right.
and that's
Right.
what they're listening to. And then you have people who move here, who learn about it. So that's why I say it's both, because they realize how deep it is and then how sweet it is also.
Right.
And you can't help but want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I always say it gives you happy feet.
Yeah, that's true.
I've been to gigs, man, and I've if I see somebody, if I seen a guy one time, I've seen a couple people. There was a guy one time at a Tibetan's gig, and it was during Mardi Gras, and I was at the time I was playing with Big Sam, Funky Nation. I was still in New York. Me and Sam were cousins, first cousins, and I played a gig with Big Sam. It was Big Sam, Funky Nation. It was Rebirth Brass Band, and it was packed. It was like Jazz Fest, downstairs, upstairs. You could barely get in Tibetan. Pack outside, got food trucks. I mean, like the whole 9 yards,
Right, right.
And this one guy in front of the stage stood in front of the stage with his arms folded the whole night. And when the gig was over, I made my way to him, and I said, "How you doing?" I said, "Did you enjoy yourself?" He said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "You stood there with your arms folded the whole night, like you were disturbed about something." I said, "You gotta tell me." Your toes or something was moving that I couldn't see, because it's impossible to be. And I told him, I said, whatever you're going through or dealing with, this is the time that you don't even worry about it, you know, because you can't do nothing about it anyway, Right. And he said, his words to me was, "You're absolutely right." He said, "I really did enjoy myself. I really did enjoy myself." And he said he had just moved to New Orleans, man. And that was his first time experiencing the whole Mardi Gras experience, and with the Indians and stuff,
Right.
But like I said, it's active. It's both of them, man. The culture has a lot to do with the community, man. People putting back into the community. It's also something that gives the kids something to do. It's an arts, you know what I mean? Like the whole beating of Indian suits. It's not easy, but the learning process is great. And once you learn, it's like you can't stop.
Right.
You just can't stop. You just you have to continue. And and a lot of people look at it and they go, "Well, they just sewing beads." It's like, nah, it's way deeper than that, yo. It's not just sewing beads, man. Like you have to really get a hands-on experience of it to really understand it.
Oh yeah.
Somebody can explain it to you, but until you really get your hands in it and are around it enough so you can really see and understand, it's mind-blowing. It's definitely mind-blowing.
Right. No, it is a one-of-a-kind city. It's one-of-a-kind people, no doubt about that. At the beginning of our conversation, you spoke a lot to the gumbo of various styles. You had the African influence, you had the Cuban influence. Maybe to close this off, is there something that we can listen to that perhaps will give the audience a better understanding of who would be good examples of this?
Absolutely, I can name a few.
Awesome.
Anything Preservation Hall Jazz Band, Rebirth Brass Band, the summit that they held it's called the Drum Summit with Herlin Riley, Shannon Powell, Jason Marcellus, Mardi Gras Indians, Wild Magnolias, Big Chief Monk Boudreaux, Big Chief Juan Pardo, Johnny Vodakovich, Stan Moore, Terrence Higgins, myself with John Cleary. There's a lot of stuff, man. That's just to name a few. I mean, we could go even old school and Earl Palmer, Smokey Johnson. Listen to some of the Allen Two songs with Smokey and Earl. I mean, that's the start, man.
Right.
That's a good gumbo right there. Trust me, man.
Awesome. I mean, that's the best thing. Are you kidding me? That's the best thing. I couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah, man.
That is fantastic. Well, listen, Eddie Christmas. I'm so grateful that you took your time today to talk to me, to talk to the audience. I wanna say thank you so much for making yourself available, and Stay safe, stay
Man,
sane
thank you
out
for
there.
having me, man. I appreciate it.
Oh,
You too,
absolutely.
man. Thank you,
Absolutely.
man.
Absolutely. It's my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Stay safe, stay sane out there, and hopefully in the not too distant future we'll cross paths in person, either in New
Yeah,
Orleans or in New
yeah.
York, wherever.
Or New York. Yeah,
It's all
absolutely.
good. All right.
All good, bro.
All right. Thank you so much, Eddie Christmas.
Thank
All
you,
right.
man.